Welcome back, everybody. I hope your hunting season's going great for those who have already started, and for those who haven't, good luck out there. We are back. Finally stopped raining. It's been raining for months. Gotta love Florida. But I finally got back to ballistic gel testing. I got a number of videos coming. I'm going to try to knock them out as fast as possible. Today, though, we are talking about a monolithic. It's a new one. It's from a small company in Bozeman, Montana called Cavity Back Bullets. Now, let's dive into the design real quick and we'll go through this. All right, let's talk about design. Now, this is a small company out of Bozeman, Montana called Cavity Back Bullets. It's named that because it literally has a cavity in the back. I don't know the owner or any of the information regarding them. I just looked at their website. I was sent these by a buddy. One thing I do have to say, though, whoever designed this bullet, they really put the time and research into designing this bullet. Now, as most people know, I'm not a big monolithic fan of copper bullets. Reason being, increased cost, limitations on them that aren't there with lead core bullets. They don't perform as well terminally. Again, the limitations alone is enough to just turn me off, even though I have used them. Monolithics also have the highest failure rate of projectiles out there. That's why I stopped using them for hunting. I got tired of it. There's much better bullets out there in the lead core side. And the other part is I really dislike the lies and anti-hunting, anti-gun stuff that brought these about in places like California. And especially when companies are utilizing those same lies to push that agenda and to make money off that marketing. Now, I'm not saying these guys do. I haven't seen anything like that from them. But for those who are in places like California, these are a bullet you can use out there. And let's dive in. Now, you can see it has what looks like grooves right here. Now, what this does is it helps. It's removing material and it's weakening it. So it doesn't take as much resistance because it is a harder metal. It does require more force in order to open up. Now, the other thing is it's a tipped bullet. Now, I love tipped bullets. Why? Because they work. Even on a lead core bullet, when you impact, it's like a wedge and it's being forced back in there and forcing expansion. And I love those on, cup and core match bullets. They work really, really well. You have a high BC, so you're not losing that for that long range. You're not bleeding energy and velocity off so fast. It's way more reliable, especially when you're dealing with a monolithic, which is a solid copper bullet. So, ultimately, very interesting design. I'm not sure as far as the back here, the cavity in the back, if that actually has a function with it, with the rifling or what, or if that's just something they did to reduce mass. I'm planning on calling the owner and, have a conversation with him because I'm going to continue to test these bullets. Now, you also don't have the typical, drive bands that you're going to see. Now, drive bands are utilized on copper projectiles in order to deal with issues of overpressure. Because unlike a lead core bullet, which is softer, that will actually get squished into that rifling and has some give to it, these don't. These are solid, and so they tend to increase the barrel wear, and they tend to really have issues with pressure. And so most do those drive bands. The problem is that's why most monolithics have such poor BCs, is because those drive bands are not aerodynamic. They induce a lot of drag, and so you're really bleeding off velocity. A lot of guys want to go, which is pretty much what you want. You want to reduce mass, you want to go lighter weight, higher velocity, and a lot of these guys will crank them out at ridiculous speeds with super light bullets. And that's great, except they're inducing so much drag, especially the more bands they have, that within a couple hundred yards, it doesn't matter. You're already equaled out. So the increase in velocity isn't equaling out to compensate for that drag. There are monolithics that are used in ELR, extended long range, and they don't even bother with them like burgers because they just found that it was counterproductive and it wasn't really helping. With this, it doesn't have what you'd see with those drive bands, and I have heard of pressure issues. In fact, I actually had pressure issues. Surprising or not, I really did. With any monolithic, I'm going to start on the low end. I started at the bare minimum at 42 grains of Varget. This is a 168 grain bullet, and I actually had a stiff bolt and blew a primer. So they shoot really well so far, and I'll show you the terminal performance in a sec, but it's something you need to worry about with all monolithics. You know, start a little bit lower, and so that's another thing I want to talk to the owner about. And so as far as pressures, you know, it doesn't have the same kind of give, and so you need to watch those pressures, you know, which you're going to end up using less powder that way, but you know, it's up to you what you want to do. If you want to run a monolithic, go for it. I'm here to just educate people, show everybody the limitations and pros, cons, etc., and then you guys can make an educated decision from there. So without further ado, let's dive into the performance side of it terminally. Now let's talk terminal ballistics here. Now, as I've kind of stressed, I'm not a big fan of monolithics. I have been impressed by a couple of them as far as how they've performed inside the monolithic side. The DRT, Dynamic Research Technology, the terminal shock, which actually isn't a monolithic. It's actually a powdered core that's compressed, that's non-lead, with a jacket, and it performs phenomenally. So if you're in California, that is my #1 recommendation. These, however, have performed very, very well. Now, their operational range, according to their website, is 3,000 feet per second down to 1,600 feet per second. Now, I am not for sure on that. I hear a lot of claims. Generally speaking, monolithics, you're looking at 2,200 feet per second for expansion, for the minimum impact velocity. Now, with the way these are designed, it very well could open up under that. There's a lot of lead core bullets that are softer that it won't even open up at that. So I'm going to reserve judgment until I actually take this down to those velocities. This is my first one, and I actually ran this out of a 308. Now, this is a 168 grain bullet. Generally speaking, you want to run really light. This is actually what I run in my 308 is 168 grains. And so to test it at the same weight, you know, it gives you a little bit more in the middle velocity, what you're going to see as far as a average range. I'm going to load them in the 300, but I started off in the 308. Now, these bullets are designed to open up really, really well. They've got some nasty, as you can see, some really nasty petals there. Opened up pretty well, especially for the impact velocity, which was 2,600 feet per second. But again, that's over that normal 2,200 feet per second. Now, could it possibly open up past that, especially with these grooves and the design of it? It very well could. But again, I take anything from a manufacturer with a grain of salt. But let's look at the gel here. Now what you can see here is we have a really nice temporary wound cavity. It actually dumped a lot of energy. I was really surprised for the size of the cavity, especially for a monolithic. We captured the bullet. It really did a nasty job as far as opening up at that impact velocity. And so I'm impressed. I mean, we have a nice permanent wound cavity. Now I know, guys, I normally use hide and meat on my stuff. I have a very good excuse why I didn't on this one. I forgot it at home. I just had one of those moments that I was rushing out trying to get it and left them in the cooler sitting in the living room. So honestly, we're still seeing the performance on gel, so not a big deal. But you can see, I mean, the gel is brand new. I normally take a heat gun, but you can still see that's a nice permanent wound cavity. They do warn against going over 3,000 feet per second, and I think that's a good warning because at that point the petals will come off and you just have the shank of the bullet continuing through. That is a very poor design. Basically, you're going to start a displacement, they're going to peel off, you lose that surface contact, and you basically have a full metal jacket going through at that point. So I really like how this one opened up. Really, really nasty. That would definitely do a number. Is it on the level of a good lead core bullet? No. For monolithics, though, this is one of the best performing bullets I've seen so far terminally. As As far as the pressure, you can just adjust around that as far as your load, but quite honestly, I was very impressed with the terminal performance of this. We have a really nice temporary wound cavity there, a lot of energy transfer, which a lot of monolithics struggle with. And so you're going to have that aid of that hydraulic shock. So that alone, the energy transfer it achieved was very impressive to me. The permanent wound cavity, I mean, that's a dead deer, dead elk, whatever you want to use it for. In conclusion, I'm actually impressed. I don't say that very often with monolithics, but this one terminally, I'm not talking about external ballistics or any of that, or, with the pressures of, the bullet design on that. This is a very impressive bullet terminally. I like that the petals don't come off. I like how they designed it. It definitely could go under the normal as far as the way it's designed. So, I mean, for those who are stuck in California, places like this, I'd actually recommend this bullet. My first one is the DRT Terminal Shock. Definitely, hands down. This one, though, to run a 168 grain into 308 and get this type of performance at 2,600 feet per second, yeah, I'd call that impressive. And again, I don't say that very often about monolithics, so you can look them up. I'm going to include the website Cavity Back Bullets. You guys can check them out. They're actually not that bad a price. They're priced around like 45 bucks per 50, which for monolithics, it ain't bad. So definitely something to look into if you're interested in running monolithic copper bullets, or if you are forced to in places like California. So all in all, I look forward to testing these more. Very interesting design and actually surprising results as far as the terminal ballistics of it. And I'm going to keep plugging away with these guys. Again, we had a bunch of rain, so I wasn't able to get out and do stuff. Knocked out a bunch of different tests. I think you guys are going to be very interested in some of the bullets that I used and tested. And we're going to keep plugging away. So everybody, good luck this season. Be safe. Happy hunting.
Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notification bell so you won't miss out on any future video. And happy hunting!